1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Hey listeners, welcome back to another episode. What?
You're so like Mr. DJ.
I know.
You can't see it, but Ricky has like his hand on one of the pieces, and he's like, "Hey listeners."
I know, like I'm about to like, Britney Spears. Okay, that was enough. Hey listeners, welcome back to another episode. I'm Ricky.
And I'm Brittany.
And we are
Paper
Screen. So for this episode, we're going to be talking about two movies. Actually, one is Don't Worry, Darling. And the other one is
Men. Because I thought these would be good to talk about because they both have like feminist undertones or whatever.
Misogyny.
Undertones, overt tones. Yeah, misogyny, the patriarchy, blah, blah, blah.
Let's get right into it. Let's talk about Don't Worry, Darling first. Because let's just say this movie went through a lot of shit.
Yeah. This it was strange because it was like the first initial trailers, like, what the fuck is that? You know, like, and I love Florence, and she's only been doing a few things. I mean, not a few. Like she's done a lot in this short time. She's kind of like up and come. Yeah. Since was like Midsummer her kind of like breakthrough.
Pretty much, like that's what she's known for. Yeah. But she also did Little Women. Little Women was after though, wasn't it? I feel like it. Oh, maybe
I don't know. It was like the same year, maybe. But she had done some smaller films, or like one where she plays like a wrestler, and another with I think Macy Williams from Game of Thrones. It's like they're together, and it's like they're in England, I think, and they're at like a girls' prep school, or maybe Ireland, and she has to get an abortion. Yes.
So
Don't worry, darling.
Don't worry, darling.
Violet, where did you meet Bill?
We met on a train
to Boston. Yeah.
Cute. Yes.
You dropped your ticket, and he bent down, picked it up, gave it to you, right? It is, yeah. That's how Margaret met Ted. And Peg, am I right in thinking that that's how Debbie McIntyre met her husband? Yes, I am. That's how they met.
Yes, that's true. I'm jealous, honestly. It's such a sweet story. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that funny the way it's coincidence?
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah. There are only so many different stories that we're told. We're told what we remember until we try to remember things that they want us to forget.
So let's talk about like what this movie is about. If you haven't seen it, it takes place in the 1950s where like these women are housewives living with their husbands in this utopian experimental community.
Right.
And certain things start to happen in this glamorous company
this sort of like secretive but like high valued maybe tech or
and
something.
They're hiding some secrets.
Right.
And basically like Florence Pugh's like character is the main person that's going to stop them.
Right. She's gonna avenge.
I'm just kidding. Anyways, it's starring Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Olivia Wilde, Chris Pines, and Gemma Chan.
Mm-hmm. And Nick Kroll.
Oh, and Nick Kroll.
Yeah.
I was like, who dat? I'm just kidding. And then this is directed by Olivia Wilde.
Mm-hmm. And it's like her second.
Yeah, because she
like
did
feature.
Booksmart.
Yeah, she did Booksmart. This is really different from Booksmart.
Yeah, and she tried it. She tried it.
I will say something we should start off with is Olivia Wilde is going to have a career, and we're already seeing it, where she's going to be like highly criticized. And it's because it's really difficult for society to see a hot woman, doing something other than being a hot woman. Mm-hmm. And that is something we've already seen with AOC.
Yeah.
Like everyone in Congress is like, oh, AOC, she's and it's like, we get it. She's fucking hot, and you can't handle it. And that's what's gonna go on with Olivia Wilde.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, that's gonna be like it's like everyone wearing rose-colored glasses, but they're misogynist.
But also, like, she started out as like an actress, so that's what we all know her for. Is not her directing,
right? But when men do those things, like, no one's gonna.
It's true.
You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
just is. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she's 100% written off by viewers and society or whatever. I'm just saying it's an extra element too. And I want to like just say that before we start tearing this movie apart.
And on that note, what were your feelings about this movie? Like, what was your movie experience?
So I think I've liked everything Florence has done. So I'm like, I want to see this movie. Like, I loved Mad Men. Like, I like movies that are period pieces, especially the 50s and 60s, just because, like, I love mid-century modern and, like, I don't know, it's just, like, fun, right? It's, like, this whole world that I'm never gonna fucking be in.
I mean, it has that Palm Springs vibe.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
did they shoot it in Palm Springs?
I have no idea where they shot it.
Oh.
But, yeah, I mean, you know, you see the trailer and you're like, you know, something's going on with this movie, but you're not really sure. And then for like, what, a month straight before the movie came out, there was just tea coming out like, oh, Olivia Wilde, like Florence hates Olivia because, which again, I don't know, that probably isn't exactly true. Like, that's another thing is like pinning women against each other, you know, like, so that's a whole thing. But, you know, it was like Olivia Wilde hooks up with Harry. So that's already like a big distraction from the film itself because they're like, again, they're like older woman, not okay. She's supposed to be with Jason Sudeikis. She's supposed to be, you know, like she's mothering his children, all that shit, right? So there's like a lot of judgment. And then Florence isn't like promoting the movie, which is sus because she usually is like very into like posting a ton of shit. And she eventually did on Instagram, but yeah. Anyway, so that being said, all that shit, right?
Yeah.
So distracting to the movie. And then, and which sucks is like before the movie even came out, we're hearing, oh, it's getting, like the critics hate it. I'm like, okay, like what is this movie?
But I got a standing ovation though.
I know, which is really interesting.
I feel like they're gonna have standing ovations at cons.
Just like no matter what.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what movie
because
it
they're
is.
like, look at us. Look at even
right. This is cons. You have to do this.
Yeah. Right. And she looked fabulous, so Florence did.
Yeah,
so,
she did.
Okay.
That's why she promoted that film on Instagram. She was
right?
like, I gotta show off my red
She was like, but
outfit.
look at this look.
Right?
Right.
Enough about this movie. Look at me.
So right off the bat, there was like 10,000 Gen Z people at the theater. And you're like, well, they're going to see the movie work like at concessions. You're like, they're going to be in our movie.
They're definitely
and I'm like,
going...
I don't know. I don't think so. And you go, Harry Styles. And I'm like, oh shit, really? Is that still like a thing with the kids?
Yeah.
And it sure as fuck was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Like, come on. Come on, man. But the theater was packed. There wasn't an open seat.
And it was like, well, did we go on a Tuesday too? It was $5.
Probably.
That's probably why. That movie had just come out that weekend.
Right. Yeah.
So people were definitely still seeing it.
Yeah. True.
And
I think it has that lore. Like now it has like the Harry Styles, Olivia Wilde relationship. Florence hates them. Like whatever. Has all that shit going on. And then the trailer is like, okay, what's this movie? Like what's this mystery? What's really happening? Why is this, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then when we watched the movie, I was like, I will say I got very confused, like right off the bat. I knew like immediately it's like they're in this like fantastic relationship.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, they're newlyweds or whatever. And then all, everyone is like Stepford Wives or whatever, like
yeah,
like very synchronized. And we eventually start getting these like short, abrupt cut-ins of people synchronized dancing and swimming and shit. And then there's like the dilated eye. And I think when it showed the dilated eye, I was like, is this going to get like artsy, like weird? Like the kind of artsy where you're like, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Know? When we finally get the reveal of like what the fuck's going on, it is so, I mean, and it's kind of, I actually do think that works and like is good. It worked this way. It's very extremely fucking jarring.
Yeah.
All of a sudden she's like getting zapped in like her bed for like, having thought. And then all of a sudden it jumps to like Florence Pugh working as a surgeon.
Yeah.
And she like walks out and like go,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're just like, what
by the way,
fuck?
spoiler alert, like,
Oh,
this
don't
whole...
listen. If
yeah.
you're listening, you're not seeing it. Whatever. Who gives a shit? You probably already know by this point. Okay, so yeah. And then she goes home and like Harry Styles is like this, like the most incel looking dude I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Just I mean, ugh. And it's not to say that like that his aesthetic is inherently like unattractive. He literally looks like he has not left that chair. He looks like he hasn't showered, whatever. And she's just this like, she's a doctor. So that's like, okay, she's holding the power.
She's like the breadwinner.
Yeah, she's like the
in
breadwinner.
the relationship.
Yeah, and you get like little flashbacks, like he had clearly lost his job or something, and he's like, how am I going to take care of you or whatever? So it starts making sense of like, oh, and they have the complete opposite life from what we've been watching. He's this like, he's getting promoted and celebrated at this like top secret, like super special, clearly wealthy company that like has created their own town. And she's the happy, sexy housewife or whatever. But that whole thing was so distracting to me because I'm like, she fucking looks like she's 22. She can't be a surgeon.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong,
she?
but she looks young as fuck. Her and Harry in that movie, don't you think they look like they're in their 20s?
No.
Maybe I'm just saying that because like whenever I go to the doctors, it's like older people.
Maybe she's like the assistant to the surgeon. She's not actually like...
But she's a doctor.
Oh.
Her title is doctor in the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, they explain like they're in a fucking simulation. Yep. And it's like that's kind of like... It's obviously going to get tapped into because it's whatever, and because it's probably what's happening to us.
Honestly, I believe it.
I mean, like the logical understanding of our advancement with technology, it's pretty interesting.
You probably just woke up one day and was like...
We're all the same, like 12-year-old alien. What was like your theater experience? Like, I know we're together, but like, what were you thinking?
Oh, I was like, oh God, I don't want to see this movie, but I thought you wanted to because you asked me.
I mean, I did.
Right. And, I was like, we'll go on Tuesday because it's like $5 and we'll just like do it for the podcast.
So you avoided TikTok? You didn't get spoiled?
I mean, I didn't care to see the spoilers on TikTok. I did see them. So I did know that it was basically Get Out meets Westworld for white women.
You did make a Westworld comment before we went into the theater.
Yeah, and then you're like, no!
Yeah.
Your mood instantly changed after that because you were like, you were literally slouched on that theater chair and was like...
I was like this like angsty teenager. I know.
But yeah, like... There was a lot of shit in this movie that I want to talk about. Like, there's like some wild scenes, specifically the saran wrap scene.
Oh my God.
Probably like the funniest scene in the movie, which clearly...
It was like the best thing I've ever seen.
I know, but that's probably the scene that like Florence directed herself and was like, hey guys, let's just shoot this real quick. Basically, it's my emotions right now. With the saran wrap. And then
I know, because I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, okay, and like in this scene she's supposed to like have a hard time cutting the saran wrap like on her food or whatever, and when she's rolling, she just like held it up and just started wrapping it around her head. We start belly laughing in the theater.
I think we were the only ones laughing. And like that was a very long scene too. I know, she kept going. I was like,
she keeps going, and then it shows her face and it's all smushed.
Well, that's when she was like, okay, I can't do this now. I gotta stop.
Yeah.
And she was like struggling to like rip it open.
Right. And we're like,
oh my God.
We're like, is this acting?
This is method acting. Like,
yeah.
A lot of the acting kind of goes up and down with like the characters. Like,
yeah.
You could tell like there was tension between all the actors, and like Florence's acting changes mid through. Like, it gets campy a little bit, like just the way she presents herself. Like when she's talking to that doctor, she's like, what happened to da-da-da? And she kind of makes this like remark. I don't remember.
She's kind of being a smart ass.
Yeah, she's like being a smart ass. And I'm like,
Yeah, that again, like those things might have been intentional because we're watching a character who's disconnected from their actual identity inside of a simulation where they're basically being programmed to be like the ideal wife, you know, because like in the real world, she's like a passionate, hardworking doctor who's tired, who works like long ass shifts and has to get up early.
Yeah.
And who's, you know, like not having much of a fulfilled relationship, clearly.
Right.
And that's kind of what motivates him to go into this la la land
La
or
La
whatever.
Land.
Yeah. So maybe like when she starts breaking, she's like breaking simulation
her-
character or something, because she does. It's like, but it is kind of fast. Like it's like her and Olivia Wilde are like fucking bitches to their friend who like was like the third in their group. And they're like,
Are you talking about the black girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, she went crazy. We don't like fuck
Right.
with her anymore. And you're like, okay. And I mean, yeah, like right away, she like looks kind of haunted. And like Florence, what is her character's name?
Alice.
Okay, yeah. So then Alice, who's Florence, Alice like sees her and that's kind of like the first peak of interest. And then also her and Harry have sex at
Some party.
Some party, but it's at the
That's
cult
thrown by
leader's
the-
like house.
Yeah. Played by Chris Pine.
Played by Chris Pine. And like, yeah, they go into his bathroom and like start hooking up. And then Chris Pine like comes and stands in the doorway and Florence sees him watching. And it's like this weird like,
Yeah. It's
Like, you're like,
weird.
okay.
Like, why do you keep watching? And they just keep
and
going
she doesn't
too.
react either.
She just
she doesn't
keeps
like
going.
she doesn't tell her husband like, whoa, your boss is here. She's just
Yeah.
kind of, yeah. And I think that was the other thing is like, it's like we just see this couple and they're like, oh, we love each other. And like, oh, I hated how the movie opened. Them playing like those games. Do you remember?
What was the game?
It's like the married couples. I don't know. They're like balancing a drink on their head or something.
Oh.
It was like the worst, most uncomfortable, awkward, unnatural, like little party I've
Yeah.
ever seen.
Probably because that's where like the tension between the actors.
You're
they
just so
they were awkwardly like trying to act like friends.
yeah,
basically.
and I think it is probably hard. Obviously, shooting a party scene because you're not actually having a party. You're not like blasting music. You can't like you need to act like whatever. But not only that, but their party is six people, and it's like the 1950s or 60s or whatever. So I don't know, but it
Yeah.
just felt so awkward.
I forgot that it opened like that.
Yeah, and it kind of dragged.
Aren't they like dressed in like Playboy stocking?
I don't-
Kind of like,
I don't know. I don't.
or is that all in my head?
That's just. It's just what you saw, I guess.
Oh,
We jump timelines. I don't know,
Oh my
but
god.
yeah, and then it's like her and Harry at home, and he like starts going down. Like she makes him like this beautiful dinner, and he just like starts eating her out, and she's like pushing all of like this food she just made all day,
Right.
and it's like we get it. Like they're a very passionate, young, happy couple. Like they're having a good time.
Right. So weird. Let's talk about that weird dancing scene.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm talking about? There's this part where like Chris Pine's character,
Oh,
he like makes Harry Styles dance in front
Oh
of this
my God.
audience, and I'm like, what is happening? It drags on for so long, and it's also intercutting with like the scene with Olivia and Florence like in the bathroom because Florence is having a mental breakdown, and she's like, "We
Yeah,
have
this
to get
is
out
like
here."
after the doctor's kind of starting to figure things out. She's just like pissed. She knows she doesn't trust these people.
Yeah.
And her husband is getting honored, promoted, getting a fucking ring from like
Yeah.
the company. But then yeah, the boss, Chris Pine, his boss is like, all right, dance.
I don't
She's
know,
like,
it was-
what?
You know, it was kind of giving me like gay vibes, like gay
Uh-huh.
lover vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe because the whole like dance for me, baby.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. It's like a power dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Because like Harry's like dancing, he's dancing really weird, but he's dancing like for a long time, and it
Mhm.
kind of feels like this weird like thing where his boss is like dance,
Yeah, yeah.
keep going, dance. Isn't this incredible? And you're just like, what is this? What they did in the 50s
Yeah. I
or
don't know.
60s? Like it's so weird. Then in the
Yeah.
other room, his wife is, and you're kind of from the outside looking in, it's like she's kind of taking away from his big night.
Mhm, mhm.
But also he's completely taken away her life.
For real. Oh, one thing that I wanted to mention, the black friend that they have.
What's her name?
Her name is Margaret. Which
Margaret.
is played
that's
by
right.
Kiki Lane.
She looks like a Barbie doll.
She's really pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She was in If Beale Street Could Talk.
Oh, okay.
So apparently her character wasn't supposed to die.
What?
And she was supposed to be at that party scene.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What happened? Is that why the
Bitch, they
party
got
scene's
cut
awkward?
They got cut out. Gemma Chan got cut out screen time. Like,
What?
I know, exactly. And this is the other thing I want to talk about is like, why did Olivia's character get more screen time?
Mhm.
She literally did not add anything to the story besides drinking and smoking and like, look at me.
The fun friend.
Yeah, like the fun friend. But like, we don't know anything about her character until the end when she
right.
like,
She drops a bomb.
she literally just says, "Oh, I volunteered as tribute to be in this simulation so
I've
that I
known
could."
the whole time, but you gotta go. They're gonna kill you.
Yeah, but you gotta run.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna stay
smoke their
here with
cigarette.
my fake kids.
Right. She's like,
they're
but
not real."
in this world, I have my kids. You see?
Yeah.
That's why. And I'm like, that happened so quick that I was like, we don't even like get to sit and like consider your perspective because of how quick this is happening. It probably is a great point that like if something tragic happened in your real life where like your children died in like a car accident, you probably would love to fucking go into a simulation and have them. Like that's like deep, right? That's like very human and
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's like an interesting way to talk about this new tech or whatever you want to call it, but instead she just kind of like throws it out there.
Yeah, but then she's like literally living in this simulation the whole time. Like,
Mhm.
don't you have to pay for this?
I know. Well,
Like, what do
no,
you-
they do. The husbands do because they literally go to work,
Oh yeah, her husband is
right?
Nick Kroll.
Nick Kroll.
Wasn't sure if he was real or not.
Yeah, they're husband and wife. Like they both wanted to be with their kids.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it would have been nice to have like to get to know Margaret more and like their
Yeah.
friendship and like what tipped her off.
And also Gemma Chan's character too. She's
Well,
married
okay.
to Chris Pine's character,
Right.
Frank.
Yeah.
And she knows like about this place too because that moment at the dinner table when like
Mhm.
Alice kind of
oh,
like
right. Yeah.
interrogates Frank.
She
And,
very quickly shuts her up.
yeah, and Gemma Chan's like, don't talk about my husband like that, blah blah blah.
She's like, you're rude.
but she knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And there must be, whatever reason. And maybe he's like extremely toxic and abusive or something. And
Yeah.
she's like, bitch, I don't want to get hit tonight. I don't know. But yeah, that was the other thing is like, and why I was kind of hopeful for the movie is because like I really enjoyed the ballet scene. So basically the setup is these husbands go to work and then their wives clean the house like every
Mhm.
single day, which like, that's amazing. I would love that.
To not do anything but clean.
Well, it'd just be nice if everything was cleaned every day. You just know everything was clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then you would have like,
I'm not saying I want to do it.
oh.
Or I'm just saying that would be dope to
Sorry.
have whatever. Okay. So clean, go do their errands, like get groceries, cook.
Mhm.
And then there's days where they either go shopping, right? And it was like back in the day where like when you went shopping, it was like an event, right? And like
Right.
models wore clothes. And then, or they would go to like ballet class.
Mhm.
And they all like, do their ballet in unison and whatever. But when Gemma came in, that like, it was like Florence wanted to fuck her.
Oh yeah.
Like she's just like staring at her, just like quivering,
Right.
and Gemma is like, you don't really, from what I got, no one's like buddy with her.
Mm-hmm.
She's just like the founder's wife. She's hot. She's tall. Intimidating. And she's like leading this ballet class. And
Mhm.
like, so I was kind of hoping something would happen with that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, something maybe kind of like Black Swan.
I know. It did have Black Swan
Right?
vibes because, like, especially that scene where Florence sees Margaret in the mirror and then she's like
Yeah.
smashing her head in the mirror. Like,
Yeah,
that kind of reminded me of
totally.
Black Swan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we love Natalie.
We do.
We love Natalie and we love Florence, and they're both in the Marvel universe.
They are. Oh my God.
Isn't that funny? The only thing I'll just mention is that I appreciate the idea of exploring like how desperate a man can be if his pride,
Mhm.
is being completely shattered by his failure to have like a high paying, whatever, secure job, and his
Yeah.
wife is like in a extremely admirable position. And just what happens to people when they fucking go online and like they spend too much time online.
Yeah.
And you get disconnected from reality, and often you're probably going to get desperate and start believing things that are fucked up.
Yeah.
right? Like conspiracies and like all that shit. So he gets looped into believing in this perfect life, perfect world, which is, you know, all you gotta do is just like get this. And that's it. It's like he's torturing his wife. Like when you see her, she is flat on the bed with a machine holding her eyeballs open, scanning a red light. That's I would never want to see my partner.
It's very Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, it's so fucked up. But it does, like, it makes the whole thing make so much more sense because it's kind of the only way you can explain it.
Yeah.
If it were to be a dream, it would just be like,
ugh.
But this is like the one I was like, okay, sure. Yeah. It makes it all make more sense because the whole time I was like, what's this company going to be? Is it going to be like they're living in like a nuclear zone and like they're all kind of like crazy because like that's the other thing is like, oh, Margaret lost her kid. And you're like, what? Yeah. Like, in this, you would really just like be mean to her? Like, no. You would be like, where the fuck is this kid?
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. I just think the movie had a lot of potential, and I don't know who's to. Not that you should ever really like point fingers, but like, was it just got cut up on the editing bed because of the studio and what they wanted, or who knows?
Also, that one scene where like Florence sees the plane crash.
Yeah.
We never go back to that. It's like never.
Because she wakes up in her bed.
So like we have no idea what that was about.
Oh yeah, you're right. We literally don't.
We don't ever go back to it. And it's like, what was the point of that?
Like, was it like one of the husbands just like, I want to fly a plane? You know, like what was that? Really, sincerely,
Maybe.
Like, okay.
But if you die in the simulation,
if a man dies in the simulation, he dies in real life. They specifically say man. Yeah, and Florence kills her husband, which like you go, girl. You know what I mean? Because come on.
Dang. Yeah.
Well, he basically treats her as if she, you know, has quote unquote hysteria.
Yeah.
Throws her to a doctor. He shocks the shit out of her. And she's like, I feel a lot better. And Olivia Wilde's like, good, we're going to garden. And by garden, I mean, we're going to look at the garden and drink. Ha ha ha.
I know, that's exactly.
Yeah, that's her character.
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha. Just smoking her cigarette. My children love you more than they love me. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, but then she very quickly is like, nope.
Yeah.
And I don't think she was even trying to kill him. I think it just kind of happened.
Yeah, because he was getting really aggressive with her.
He was just like, he was just like,
no,
please, like, da-da-da. Oh, did he? I was so zoned out probably at that point.
Oh, well, that was like the most exciting part of the movie. It was like the last 10 minutes where like this elaborate car chase. And it was fun.
Yeah, it was. And it was kind of
like very Fast and the Furious.
Oh my gosh. It was probably one of the stronger parts. It's what felt a little bit more like Twilight Zone, Hitchcockian, like whatever, Truman Show. Like, because I felt really stressed out. Olivia Wilde shows up and she's like, hey, you gotta go. You gotta get the fuck out of here. They're gonna kill you. And Florence is like, what is going on? Like, and she's like, fucking leave, run. You have to go. They're gonna kill you. Like, yeah, it's a fucking simulation. I know about it. I've known the whole time. You gotta go. You're gonna get killed.
Yeah.
And Florence is like, huh? Like, just like not leaving, which I mean, sure, finally you're in shock, whatever. But then she finally goes outside and she's like looking at everyone, looking at her. And I'm like, get in the fucking car.
I know.
Go.
Run, bitch. Run.
Like, for real. Then she finally goes and it's like, you've given everyone enough time to like show up and start chasing you.
Right. All the people in the red suits are like ready.
Yeah. Part of me was like, you know what?
They fucking come out of nowhere too. Like,
go ahead and get her.
Tunnel. That you guys are,
yeah, and like when Margaret, oh my god, and then it turns into Us. Yeah, and then those scenes where she's drowning, like she's in the sunken place.
Yeah,
weird.
Is that like the beginning of the movie?
Hold on, is this tie into the Jordan Peele universe?
Oh, let's hope not.
No, it for sure doesn't. But I mean, one thing I think you were saying earlier, but you were saying this feels like a movie.
It's a movie that feels like a movie that you have to see in the theater.
Like you would see in the theater, like a real movie.
Like in a cinema.
That's what Harry Styles said.
In an interview.
Sitting next to Chris Pine, who was like dissociating or something.
He has like astral projected.
Oh my, yes! He's astral
like
projected back into like this fucking movie where he can be like this like cult leader. Yeah, no, that was
That was
poor
so
Harry.
bad.
That's just what happens when you take someone like out of their element. And then
Yeah,
like because
totally.
he's probably being, I mean, when they have to go do press for those movies, it's like it can be like months long, you know, and like being asked the same question, and he's probably just like tired, probably a little stoned, I would assume. Why not? But and he's just like, yeah, it's like a movie. It looks like a movie. That's what's it. And you're
And
like,
Chris Pine is aging fast at this point.
right at this point,
movie,
he's grown long gray hair.
like fucking Gandalf.
Yeah.
No, for real. Like Chris Pine looks like he like aged fast during the making of this movie.
Well, I think it's just his hair. I think he still looks pretty. Yeah, I don't know, but I think he was really good casting. 'Cause like I was saying, I think he really can play like this smug, charming, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I think he like can really do that well. And I mean, just the way I've been seeing him like doing press, it looks like he's just kind of like, fuck yeah, I got a fat check for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
mean,
he's
I
probably
would too.
like that was easy. I was in like 3 scenes.
Imagine what this movie would have been like if Shia LaBeouf was.
So, and that's the thing. Shia was supposed to be Harry Styles. I think I would have liked it more because double boner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Shia, I haven't been able to watch like a new film with him ever since.
Honey Boy.
I actually couldn't watch that. But it's the FKA Twigs stuff. Regardless, it just feels weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just not ready. I haven't been ready to watch Shia in a movie, and I'm not sure if I will. And same with Leo, because now I think Leo's like a fucking creep. I mean, I always kind of thought he was, but now I think he's like really creepy.
It's so sad.
It's really sad because I'm like, I like you guys. Like, I like you as actors, but like, and I'm not saying I have to like who a person is to appreciate their art. It's the issue of these people are incredibly wealthy and powerful.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'd want there to be some sort of justice for like FK Twigs.
He's still married to Mia Goth.
So him and Mia Goth, I think I'm not sure if they technically were legally married, but they had been married and they've been a couple on and off for years. But even after all the FKA Twig shit, they like more or less got back together. I believe they're together right now, but they had a child.
Oh, that's the only reason.
I think they're just like magnets to each other.
Maybe. I mean, she is Pearl.
I mean, who wouldn't? You know, I mean, you have history. You're going to gravitate to each other. And then, yeah, I guess they decided to keep the pregnancy and, you know, now they have a kid.
Love that for them.
Yeah, I think I saw an interview when he was the way he was talking about his issues and understanding how he was hurting Mia. It made me think, I mean, I don't know. I have like a soft place for him because he was even Stevens.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He was, you know, and we've kind of grown up alongside him, and he's very attractive.
Yeah.
And there's like this whole, you should look it up. There's this whole theory about how Kanye steals Shia LaBeouf's style. It's pretty interesting.
From Even Stevens?
No.
Oh.
Maybe. But no, like, because Shia was kind of doing like the big chunky boots with like ripped up old vintage band shirts kind of before anyone. He was like, you know, and I don't know. I watched this whole thing about like the theory of Kanye being very inspired by Shia. And they're like 2 peas in a pod, both Geminis too.
We love our Geminis.
Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts on this movie?
Final thoughts are, see it for yourself. I think it was tainted for us, but if you don't know anything about it, you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Like it has a strong cast. Like Florence Pugh is fucking great, and she is most of the movie. And there's some really cool, you know, like sequences.
Really great cinematography.
Oh, fantastic cinematography. Yeah. Matthew Levatique, I believe he shot Black Swan.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, no wonder.
He's one of my he's like one of my favorites, but that's, I mean, yeah, he's fucking good. And that shit looked good. And there was a lot of like different style, you know, like between like those incredibly macro shots of like an eyeball dilating and then like blood dripping or, you know, and that was the thing. It was like when it was showing the blood, I was like, what is going the fuck on? You know? It's
psychological.
Yeah. And then like the weird like Bugsby Burton.
What's that?
Bugsby. It's like the filmmaker. Bugsby Berkeley, I believe. That's a person who kind of like created the very symmetrical, synchronized film shots and stuff. Like Target commercials have ripped him off. I don't know if ripped him off is the right word, but whatever. But yeah, your final thoughts.
It wasn't for me. It was an experience, but probably mixed feelings throughout. I was confused towards the end because like it literally just ends. You really don't. It's open ended, but like obviously you can assume that like she finally does get out of this simulation, or she probably just wakes up in her bed and starts all over again. Who knows? You pick.
Right, because she might get killed in the real world for because they
that
probably
would have
want
been
to keep
an
it a secret.
interesting. That would have been an interesting ending,
right?
If that actually happened, because I think it was originally written that way.
Oh, interesting.
Go see it for yourself,
or if you've already seen it, like
let us know what
know what you thought. Yeah, did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you guess? Did you like figure it out earlier in the film? Yeah.
Overall, beautiful gowns, great gowns,
great hair.
Great hair.
Yeah, if you just want to see that aesthetic, I'd say it's worth watching just for that.
Yeah. And speaking of toxic men,
yes, let's talk about men. So I just watched Men.
It's a very it's a wild movie as well.
It's a ride.
Let me just talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Basically, it's about a young woman who goes on a solo vacation to the English countryside following the death of her ex-husband. And mysterious men begin to follow her, basically, and we don't know why. So it's starring Jessie Buckley and Rory Kinnear, directed by Alex Garland, who has done Annihilation and
Ex Machina or whatever.
Yes.
It's an A24 film, so it's gonna be good.
It's gonna be a trip, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting because I didn't recognize Rory, and I'm like, when I look at his filmography, I'm like, okay, I've seen a lot of this.
Yeah, so the reason why we're talking about this is because, it kind of correlates with the feminist undertone.
Right. And there's something kind of like, what is this reality? Like, what the fuck is going on? Is this a dream?
Pretty much. So let's talk about our experience watching this movie, because I made you watch this.
Yeah, I literally watched this a week ago. So I wanted to see it. The first time I saw the trailer, I watched the trailer and I'm like, this is like really good CGI. I'm not kidding. I was like, oh, this like looks really good. Like, what a trippy movie.
Yeah.
And then as the trailer went on, like the last couple parts of the trailer, I was like, what's going on now? It doesn't look like it's CGI. And I don't know if I sent it to Bunny or my partner or something, but I was like, hey, is this animated?
Yeah.
Is this like animated to you? Because I will say, if you've ever done acid and gone on YouTube, everything looks like that. Everything looks animated. It's so trippy. Because then you start to think like you are in a simulation. I'm not even kidding. Don't dude.
Oh my god.
Damn. Anyway, so that's what it looked like to me. Even like looking at this poster again, but now that I've seen the movie, I kind of like.
No, I think it's very airbrushed. Whatever they did on that poster, he looks like a porcelain.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's an animated character because also it's like prosthetic makeup. Right.
And that's what it was.
Yeah.
What Uncanny Valley. What was your I'll talk about mine after you talk about yours because I just watched it.
Girl. I was like, what the hell did I just watch? I mean,
were you in the theater?
No, I actually watched it at home.
Okay.
And I was like,
you're sitting there with a bottle of lube. You're like, what's going on? This is what I expected.
No, I had a bottle of wine drinking.
Yeah.
Because, I was like home alone and like, wanted to watch this movie
what
so
a perfect
bad.
time to watch that movie.
I know.
You're alone.
This movie about men. So, I mean, watching it, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of wild, but also like, I really like Jessie Buckley.
I love her, yeah.
What was that film on Netflix? I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Yes.
Really liked that movie. And
she's Scottish or English?
I want to say Irish.
And she's younger than us. I don't know if you heard me.
Wow. I would have thought she was older than us.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay, so let me just briefly talk about my experience. So you're like, oh yeah, like I need to quickly watch Men because I'm like about to jump on an airplane, whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'll download it. I watched it on my fucking phone. I've got the iPhone 13 Pro, but not the Max.
Yeah.
So it's just a regular size, which is fine. I forgot my fucking iPad. I was so pissed. Anyway.
Kind of like good that you didn't.
Oh yeah, I know. Okay, so and I'm of course I got a center seat. And it's like me and some gals on either side, and
oh my God.
I'm like sitting there watching on my phone, and like the most like the first act is like grass, like you're just seeing green, which is fine. Like it's all right.
It's pretty.
It's very pretty. I mean, yeah, the movie opened and like yeah. So I would say I didn't know that was gonna happen. The way the movie opens, I'm like, oh shit. Like as far as her husband and stuff. Yeah, and then so I'm like sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm definitely like I'm a lot more invested than I was like with Don't Worry Darling. There was like a point in the first act where I was like, I don't care where this goes. I'm not interested. I'm not invested.
Yeah.
Where with this, I was like, I mean, I was so charmed, honestly, by the setting and the atmosphere.
Yeah.
She's in Kotzen.
I want to say it sets the mood right away. Like
it does. Like she's in this little village, Kotzen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, in fucking where? Like northern.
It's in England.
England. Yeah.
Countryside, I told you.
I fucking said this already. Yeah, and it's like just like beautiful and you know shit's gonna happen. Like we've seen the trailer, but then also like she's in this like I mean, I love like old homes and buildings and stuff. So like yeah, it's really charming. And then yeah, like when he gave her a tour, it's like shut the fuck up, dude, and go. You know, he just won't stop. And then she's like talking to her friend and she's like, yeah, he's very country. You know, and yeah. So, and you're like, okay, so I guess she's like renting this place.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I'm like watching it, and then when it gets to the part where she's talking to the little boy,
that's the church, right?
At the church, the little boy's outside or he's like, I don't know, a teenager. He's outside the church. Yeah. Well, she goes into the church and she's like screaming. I've got my headphones on. I don't like physically respond a lot to things I'm watching.
Is she screaming like audible screaming or? Yeah,
she's like crying, like wailing in the church.
Right. Okay.
She's like there by herself, or she thinks she's there by herself. But the what is he? Oh, vicar. It's a deputy or substitute, anyone acting in the person or agent of a superior. It's an administrative title. Comes from the Roman Empire. Yeah, we'll say cat. So whatever, he's a vicar. She's like wailing, and I'm like, okay, she's like really fucked up from this like this whole like her husband dying.
Toxic, right. Traumatic experience from seeing her husband dying.
Yeah,
but also like
trying to exit this like abusive relationship.
Yeah.
With this like manipulative person who's like emotional vampire and whatever, and then he fucking dies. And so yeah, it's like you know, any person in that situation would blame themselves, like, oh, he was too like, but then at the same time he's like, oh, but he like you know, he's a demon and he fucked me up and you know. So it's like yeah, so she's like wailing at the church, he's like watching, and then yeah, she goes outside and like this kid's wearing a mask. And at this point in the movie, and like again, I've seen the trailer, but I'm like I'm just sitting there and I'm like, okay, only males. I've only seen males in this little town.
But he's wearing a particular kind of mask. It's a mask of a woman.
It's a mask, yeah. Blonde hair, red lips, whatever. But I know it's a kid, boy.
Yeah.
And he's really mean to her. And he's like, I want to play a game. And she's like, oh, like I can't right now. Sorry. Right. I like got to get going. And he's like, bitch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it's funny because I'm like that's been said to me by like
children before?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was walking through a park at night. Bad idea. But I was like,
oh God. It
was years ago. And there's a group of like, I don't know, maybe 13, 14-year-old boys. And they go, yo, you got a square? And I'm like, a what? They're like, a square, a cigarette. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't. And he just went like this, bitch. And I was like, I felt so like accosted. I was like, what? I don't have a cigarette and I'm a bitch? It was unreal. And like, what? Square?
Who says that anymore?
I don't know. Someone in Minnesota.
Ugh.
That's what happened. Anyway,
Ew.
so then I'm watching it, and yeah, it's like everyone's mean, like being mean to her and weird, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And she's like about to get out of there and whatever. And then the movie ends by she's like being chased around by these dudes.
Yeah,
There's,
in the
like,
house.
yeah, there's like all this crazy shit happen, and I'm sitting watching it on the plane. And I'm starting to and it's like it was like a red eye flight too.
Oh my god.
And I'm starting to kind of like like hold it a little closer to myself. And then all
up
of
to
a
your
sudden
face so that no one can see.
all of a sudden men are pregnant and birthing out men. And it's all the men we've seen in this movie. It's 3 different men. And then they're men being birthed
No, there's
out
like
of
4 different men actually.
Oh,
So there's-
right.
Yeah. The green man.
Green man. Like, what the fuck was that?
Birthing
He births the boy.
yes, the boy, and then
The vicars comes out of the boy.
yes, and then
Then
the landlord or
Yes.
the
He comes from the vicar.
yeah.
And then another dude's coming. And I'm like, who's next?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sitting there like kind of covering my phone because I'm like, I don't even know where.
Yeah.
If like you don't know what this movie is and you look over and you're seeing like a little boy pregnant and then a man crawling out of his mouth naked and quickly pregnant.
Was it his mouth or his butt? I don't
Oh,
remember.
jeez, I don't know.
I feel like
It
the
was-
green man was definitely birthing out of his butt, or it was a butt or a vagina.
Yeah,
Mangina.
whatever. It doesn't really matter. I just know that like at some point someone's coming out of someone's mouth, and then it ends with her dead husband being born.
Yeah.
So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, and this whole time you were like trying to cover up from the people.
I'm like,
next
yeah,
to you.
I'm like sitting there like, I mean, I'm really engaged. I'm like into this movie now because I'm like, I love weird shit.
Yeah.
I was waiting for like Alex Garland just because he usually has like weird kind of visual
yeah, 'cause,
odd things in all of his movies.
like
Because
Annihilation.
he did Annihilation, yeah.
And there's that whole dancing sequence with the alien, Natalie Portman, right?
Yeah.
And like that was like the longest fucking scene. And I was like, when does this end?
I loved it. I love the score. Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's
it's
the
a
whole
beautiful
part with
score.
the bear
Mhm.
with the sounds of the woman.
Oh god.
That
yeah.
shit is so trippy. That book is so different from that movie.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to save it for another time.
Eh.
No.
Anyway, yes, that was my experience. Was like, I mean, I will tell you, it made my flight go by faster.
Love that.
Yeah, but yeah, I was just like trying to cover my phone, and then
Because it is a long movie too.
was it? See, it didn't even feel long to me.
Yeah, because it's, I mean, there's like scenes that like drag, but like you're still kind of interested because it's,
Mm-hmm.
you're anxious to see what's going to happen next because she's just a
You know-
woman alone
Right.
walking in the woods. And
Right,
then-
and that whole first bit was like, it was something I would do. I would love to go on a walk.
I love long walks in the woods.
I would love to go on a walk. I long to walk. No,
Oh, dear.
she's like in the countryside, like very like just off the grid, like in this beautiful woods. It looked like it had rained in the morning.
Yeah, it did.
And like there's that big tunnel and it's just really cool. But yeah, then you see like a fucking man at the end of the tunnel, and that was
Yeah.
creepy. And she just, because the instinct you would have when you see a fucking silhouette of a man,
Yeah.
you fucking run, bitch. Oh yeah, I totally forgot. There's like that naked man.
That is the same man that's in that tunnel.
Yeah. And then she has called police and stuff. But yeah, it kind of it
Yeah.
starts with this man. Is he the green man or is he just some random man?
I think it's the green man.
Oh, okay, yeah, the
Because
green
it's
man.
the green man is like everywhere.
Mhm.
He's like the first man that she sees.
Yeah.
And it kind of all starts because she's kind of doing this like humming
Yeah.
and it almost
Right.
is like
That
it's
part
almost like a
was-
call.
Yes.
And the man appears, and I think it's kind of like to the man, it's like a mating call, or like
yeah, the siren song.
pretty much.
Yeah, because that was like very Alex Garland.
Mhm.
That part too, like, because this is long tunnel in the middle of nowhere, and she does like a la 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 whatever, and then her echo goes.
Yeah.
And then that part was I forgot about that part, but it was so great because
It's
she
pretty.
starts layering it because
Mhm.
the echo is like lasting and traveling or
Yep.
whatever, and then it's like la 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 la. Like it's
Yeah.
all like cool. Yeah. So yeah, like there's shit like that. Like so yeah, it never really felt slow.
Yeah.
You know, even though like I think if you were to like look at clips of the movie, it would seem slow because it's not a lot of locations.
Okay, but before we jump ahead,
Okay.
we got to start back with like when she does bite the fruit
Right.
in the yard.
See, there's
and
so much
all,
shit.
Yeah, there's
man.
so many layers.
There's so
like,
many layers. Bro, this
so
shit. It's like an onion.
Bitch. Yeah, so she takes the fruit from the tree that's at the countryside house.
Right.
And it's almost kind of like...
What was it? Was it an apple?
I think it was a peach.
Ooh, yummy.
Or an apricot.
Or a nectarine.
But the man's like, you shouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But she did it. And it's
right.
almost, I don't know if it's like, does it have to do with like Adam and Eve? Like,
yeah, that's very symbolic of.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
That's where like we like really get into like the origin of like toxic masculinity.
Yeah, so this movie is basically kind of like Mother.
It is.
Except it's only focusing on Adam and Eve.
Right. It's the curse and persecution a woman has to go through because she fucking took a bite of an apple.
Yeah.
But technically, from what I understand, historically, it would have been a pomegranate.
Oh.
The apple's kind of like a.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I said that. And I remember in the movie it was not an apple, and I appreciated that little touch.
Yeah, me too. But anyways,
I mean,
so
yeah.
jumping past, so after the tunnel scene, like she's like running away out of the woods, and then she like sees the green man again at that house, that abandoned house.
Yeah.
Well, for a second, you don't realize it that he's standing there until she like takes a picture of this house and she sees that man just standing there, and it's so fucking creepy.
It's so because he's naked,
And he's
and there's something
fucking
about a naked old
gross man. I know, with his junk out, and
Yeah.
oh my god, should I play a clip of it?
Yeah, play a clip right now.
Okay.
What are you doing here? Has he come back? Why aren't you replying?
So yeah, and then there's a whole going to the church, and he's like, I could hear you wailing, and I can tell you're in pain, and you know he kind of like sets up this idea that she can share.
Yeah, like
she can
it's
share
like a
her
confession.
Yeah, like a confession of, you know, like I'm here. I want to hear your pain.
But then he like makes it.
And then that for me, that was like this shit's getting weird. This is creepy because she's getting divorced. And my husband's dead. Blah blah. And he goes, but you did drive him to it, didn't you?
Right.
And you're like, what the fuck? And he's kind of interesting looking because he's got like this very like Lucius Malfoy look.
I would say Lord Farquaad.
Yeah, he has like this like very like straight shoulder length hair.
Lord Farquaad.
Yeah, and like
But
I couldn't tell with his face because I actually think those prosthetics look the best.
Mm-hmm.
Or is he even wearing any? Is it just the because he was the only person I saw in the movie where I didn't think like, huh?
They might have like just made him look a little bit older.
Yeah, and like brown contacts or something.
Yeah, but like that's clearly a really nice wig.
It's a great wig.
Shit.
Let us know where you got that. So the whole time she's kind of like flip-flopping with emotions and trying to like enjoy her time there. Like she's at this like beautiful big home. It's like all to herself. It's like have this like self-care whatever, like detox.
Mhm.
But she needs to emotionally detox too. So, you know, it's like you have to process shit, right?
Right.
And yeah, and just like I mean, I didn't have to read anything or talk to anyone to understand like what this was saying, what this was about.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was like for a man, as far as we know, Alex is a man.
Yeah.
He identifies, whatever, all that shit. He did a really good job like portraying that.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say so.
Like, I don't know who wrote it. Did he write it? Like, did he work closely with women or female
he was
identifying?
the only writer on the script.
Wow.
Which is a shame because, like, you know.
A woman should have fucking wrote. Just kidding.
Well, no, but, like, he had this story in mind for a while.
Okay.
I read that he was inspired by this story it's kind of related to religion of the story of the Green Man.
Wait.
So there's that, you know, there's at the church, there's like that sculpture that we always see. And it's like this man who kind of looks like a demon. And then there's another one. It's another face and it's a woman. Uh-huh. And this movie is basically about that.
Yeah. Because they do a like close-up shot transition with that. But like, so that's a real like story in the Catholic Church or something?
So the Green Man is a very old male nature deity or forest spirit found on both secular and religious buildings all around the world.
Oh, wow.
So he's often depicted with this face made with foliage. Basically, he's usually symbolized as rebirth. Okay. Which is the reason why we have this birth to birth scene. God. And then there's another character or another face in this structure. Yeah. Which is Sheila Nagig. Uh-huh. Which means like Julia of the breasts in Irish. Also found on sculptures.
This is the one where she's like spreading her pussy open.
Wait, yeah.
A figurative carving of a naked woman displaying an exaggerated vulva.
So yeah, that's pretty much what that story is about. Yeah, she's like the symbol of like feminism, empowerment, and you know, body positivity, and I guess it's
girl, you can spread that big ass pussy nice and wide. We love you, girl.
So yeah, that's where like Alex Garland got the story, and he like made it into this like modern tale.
Right? Yeah, it's like folk horror. I feel bad if someone were to watch. It would really suck to watch this movie and not comprehend that. Like, this is about the experience of living in a man's world, the patriarchy, and what that pain looks like and how that pain is reflected and projected onto women, especially when it comes to, we were talking about this last night, when it comes to relationships, when they end, the woman's the bitch. She's the cold-hearted bitch. You know, the ice queen, all that shit. And it's like, a lot of times women have to be the ones to end relationships because guys, no offense.
I'm gay, so.
I'm gay, so it doesn't count. But men don't. This is the thing. From what I understand, I watched this like TED Talk of a neurologist, and like how we process is different. Whereas like the female brain has to process as soon as possible, and the reason for that is because we're childbearing. So we have to. We don't have time to like sit and stew. Where a man's brain, from, again, this is what I heard in a TED Talk, so if I'm wrong, let us know in the comments, but a man has to sit and over time process, and a man will never fully process the way a woman can. But that's where like you could argue the idea of a man cave comes from. Oh. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Yeah. So, and yeah, I think that's how it can kind of feel. You can kind of feel like alienated and misunderstood, and like, you know, like there's nothing more frustrating than being a woman and a man looking at you like you're crazy because like you're experiencing emotion and you're not hiding it. And it's like, well, for us men, you look fucking scary. Like your emotions comes out as like Trump is, we're not talking about politics, I'm just talking about him as a celebrity. He is one of the most emotional public figures I've ever seen. But men won't see him that way. Right. They'll see him as like, listen, he's made a lot of money. God. And I'm like, no, he's super fucking emotional. He's way too emotional.
Right.
On that note,
let's talk about.
Do you want to talk about Jessie Buckley? Talk about the one distracting thing I had in the movie, my big criticism, that fucking dress she's wearing. Do you remember? It's
Is it
long
that-
sleeve. It's like a
Yeah.
pale. I'm like, what the fuck are you wearing? Is that a nightie?
No, but I feel like this is like something you would see like people in Silver Lake and Echo Park wearing. Like this is definitely that outfit.
Oh man.
Countryside farmer, like I don't know how to dress.
Because she dressed like normal. I mean, cute like England aesthetic. But then she wears oh god, it's ugly. It's
Wait, I
it
wanna
just
see
doesn't look right. It's a pale pink. And it's very kind of like what do you call that? A less wealthy person would wear in like Kingdom. You know what I mean? Like a background character of Game of Thrones might wear this.
Okay.
Or
Yeah,
maybe-
her outfits are cute in the other scenes.
Yeah, like
but
her
then,
outfits are all normal. Like, she's got a cute coat. But the thing is she's wearing this dress like casually around the house. And I'm like, and maybe there's something symbolic about it, but I'm like, ugh. And it has like, I don't know if that's like a maroon or brown border and detailing. And then she has short, deep auburn brown, just short brown hair. Oh yeah, she like wears like cute turtlenecks. So then, yeah, and like cute trousers. But yeah, then she wears this dress. It doesn't look good. The whole look doesn't look good.
But
like,
maybe it like means something because like maybe like the
it's about how we criticize the way a woman looks.
No.
I mean, it is very like, that's a thing. It's kind of like little girl. I don't know. It for me it was so distracting.
It's giving me like Virgin.
Sure. Yeah, it probably is something like that. Just to bring back the Green Man, a homage to the mythical figure represents the birth people need after grief.
What does it mean?
So after grief, like after processing, a part of you has to die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who you were in that relationship dies.
Yeah.
You have to accept and you have to move on. So it's, it's painful.
Yeah.
It's incredibly painful. It's isolating, which is like her whole,
Yeah.
little vacation.
Yeah. Oh God.
That was a great part too.
That's
Her
deep.
her friend just like shows up and her friend's fucking
Well, not
pregnant.
yet.
Well, at the end of the movie, her friend shows up pregnant.
Wait, she does?
You didn't see that?
I didn't even realize that she was pregnant.
Her
'cause the
friend
shot is
Riley, like they've only talked like
on the phone.
on like FaceTime and
Yeah.
shit and texting, and like at some point Riley's on her way up, even though like Harper's like no I'm fine, but then eventually it is like yeah, like something weird is happening and like this like it would be nice to have a friend here.
Mm-hmm.
But when Riley shows up at the very end, she's pregnant.
Oh, damn.
Riley is like, she looks like she's like 8 months pregnant. Mm-hmm.
Wait, is that symbolic to something?
Probably.
The Green Man?
Part 2.
Or is it that ugly kid?
I mean, I don't know. It might just be symbolic to women and like,
Yeah, it's true. It's
women,
probably gonna be a boy.
gosh, like women support each other and we create life. So I don't know if it's, but yeah, I mean, and that is the thing is that's the thing about the movie is like, it really does feel like grief.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like grief and heartbreak. And like, that's what's confusing about love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially if you were in a marriage where the spouse dies and he had fucking emotionally manipulated you and punched you.
Yeah.
When it showed that part, I was like, damn, that's so hard to watch, that kind of shit. Like that violence, like of just, I mean, he just punches her. She was flying across the kitchen.
Yep.
And she's like, get out.
Yep. And he like tries to redeem himself. He's like,
oh, I love you. I didn't mean it.
Yeah, basically.
Which, I mean, I'm only laughing because it's so absurd. But that is exactly what happens in abusive relationships, right? And that's why people get stuck in those cycles. And then people are like, why didn't they leave? And it's like, are you a human? Do you not understand how complex it is to, like, our brains release chemicals. Like, we have bonding chemicals, right? When a woman has sex, chemicals in her brain bond with the person she's having sex with. Men, I don't think you guys do that. I mean, you tell me.
Not all the time.
Depends
on the person.
Yeah, right. But anyway, it's, it's not that simple. That's the thing. The movie was very much like, hey, this shit isn't simple. It's ugly.
Yeah.
It's ugly, but it's part of life. It's like the deepest, realest, like it's, the Green Man, if you want to say he's like fucking Mother Nature,
Dude, the creepiest scenes were when he was around, especially when he
Mhm.
shows up in the house and
Oh
he's
my
like
God.
lurking.
Yeah.
And it's like, it kind of reminds me of like that scene in The Strangers where like the killer is like
Oh
in
yeah,
the background.
Strangers.
Yeah, and like he's just like lurking in the
Yeah.
window, like, and you
Mhm.
think like, oh, he's gonna come into the house, and it's just kind of like you're feeling on the edge.
Right.
Like, when is she gonna realize like this man is like literally watching her?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
yeah.
this is commentary on gender, masculinity, and I'm reading an article in Vanity Fair, and it says, in which women are forced to deal with men who might gaslight, assault, and abuse them, and also about religion and mythology to a degree. How much the viewer engages in these ideological threads may depend on their personal relationship with those themes in real life. So I mean, yeah, like I'm not Catholic, so I didn't really. I mean, I understood like the Adam and Eve, like I understood that, but when it did get that close up of the Green Man's the carving of his face or whatever inside the church, I did not know what that meant.
Yeah,
you know, and I didn't know what the Greek, because I didn't look anything up about the movie because I wanted us to talk
I kind
about
of
it.
had
But
to, because like I was like I had an idea of like all the
Yeah.
metaphors, but like I knew I had to get to the origin to like why this movie was made. Honestly,
Right.
it's like so fucking weird.
Right. Yeah, and like that's the other thing too, is even when it shows, she kind of has this weird dream sequence where she like visits the spot where her husband's body is.
Yeah,
And he's basically been crucified, you could say, sort of. Because his arms are up. It went through his wrist.
pierced through his.
Ew, that was the other part of the movie. That was like so like
at the door.
fuck?
At the door when like she takes the knife and like it's one of the men.
Okay.
And the man is like reaching through the mailbox opening.
Yeah.
And she takes a knife and like jabs it through his hand. And then the man just like slowly pulls the hand back as the knife goes right through the middle of
He does the Star Trek thing. Like,
Yes.
you did that.
Basically. Oh my God.
And then it never heals. And he keeps kind of like, she goes into a different room and he transforms into another man. So at some point, the little boy is there. He's not wearing the mask though at all.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this and I'm like, that is the ugliest fucking kid I've ever seen. And I'm like, he's so like, what is wrong with this kid? No offense. But I'm like, he kind of looks like very aged in a weird way, but then he just looks
Benjamin Button.
He's got that Benjamin Button look. And he kind of reminds me of whatever Dobby is.
Oh my God.
I think
from
it's
Harry Potter, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a house elf.
Yeah.
But he's kind of got that look. Like, I don't know, he's just, and then you know, he's like fucking harassing her. But yeah, and then every time it turns into a different guy in like a different room, they still got this fucking split arm. And it's so gross. And you can see like the muscles and stuff in it.
Yeah, it's so gross.
So gross. But that's what her dead husband had. That's what his, you know, because he fell on like a railing fence.
But I don't think like we realize that because like the flashback happens after that splitting of the hand.
The splitting.
What are your thoughts about the vicar scene where he like comes into the bathroom and like
basically sexually assaults her?
Sexually assaults her. It doesn't look like that because she's like being stabbed. There's like a blade that he's like.
I don't know, but I think you could argue, you know, forcing power. You know, like that's what I got. I mean, he's like, it's confusing and that is kind of like a you know, not to be too like man woman, not to be too binary on here, but like you do kind of feel hunted, you know, and you do feel like helpless prey sometimes, like just real talk, especially if it's like a stranger and if it's someone who it's like a confusing figure because he's supposed to be like a trustworthy person, but and it was like this weird kind of. And the thing is she kind of like physically was kind of like acting sort of she wasn't pushing too hard against it. Yeah. But it was because she needed to like level her body on the kitchen or the bathroom counter to kind of like get a better position so she could, you know.
Yeah. Another scene I wanted to talk about was like the pollination scene with like Because we see a lot of the
Yeah,
dandelions,
yeah.
and there's like a lot of shots of that, and then we're
Mhm.
seeing like the green man like blowing this like dandelion.
And dandelions are like a dandelion weed or flower, whatever you want to call it. Very healthy though. Very
Mhm.
healthy to eat a bloomed dandelion.
Ew.
When they kind of like quote unquote die, their
Oh.
seeds fly and float away,
Mhm.
and like the cycle continues, which kind of feeds into like the
Yeah, the symbolism.
yeah.
On that note, any final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts are it's a dope movie. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I think even like explaining all this, there's probably a lot more that I missed.
Yeah.
Because I mean I just watched it one time late at night on a
Same.
plane. But yeah, I really liked it. I'm like Jessie Buckley's like someone I want to keep watching. I think she's really interesting. She's the 3 films I've seen her in, she's been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
She's a really strong presence. And I really like the sound of her voice.
Yeah.
I think Alex Garland's a really interesting filmmaker because
Yeah.
all 3 of his movies have been pretty different from
Yeah.
one another.
I only saw Annihilation, but
Okay.
I liked it.
You didn't see Ex Machina?
No, I didn't know that was him either.
Oh, okay. Well, shit. You should see that.
Is it better than Annihilation?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying that because it's like, it feels more original. I think it received less criticism and it's more in the same, it's more like Men than it is like Annihilation.
Got it. My thoughts on this movie is also I really liked it. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it because of all the mixed reviews.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of people did not like this movie.
Right.
And
Like Men.
I'm guessing
Men.
it was Men. But yeah, like, you know, I was really surprised. And I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, I want to see this movie because it just looks so weird. And
It's
like,
A24.
it's A24 and like I really liked that trailer a lot. So I was like, okay, I want the trailer to be close to what the movie is. And it was.
Yeah, definitely.
I really liked the score too. It's so
Yeah.
haunting.
It
and like
is.
the score has that like gothic choir
Yep.
of a man and then like a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It almost sounds like they're having sex. Yeah, exactly. Like that. And it's just so haunting.
Do you think that was like music people like got down to back in the day?
What?
You know what I mean? Like our music's like we listen to like Charlie XCX or something. Do you think like back in the day it was like
That was their music. That was
and
their
they were
music.
like,
They're
yeah.
like, damn, this is a hit.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, can you sing that song for me? And they're sure.
They're like opening act from Lady Ah.
Lady Ah.
Yeah, those are my final thoughts on this movie. Brittany, like where can we find you?
Humble_book_reviews.
Cool. Well, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok if you like food.
And if you like food.
Do you want to say it for me?
You guys can find Ricky at @somecallme_Ricky. Okay, we're done.
Well, if you enjoyed our episode today, check us out. Give us a follow on our Instagram page. Until next time, bye.
Bye.